back to another episode of 310 to Left. I'm Alex Speier of the Boston Globe, flying solo because Tom Caron is off on assignment on parts and maybe yachts unknown. In this episode, I'm excited to have the opportunity to connect with Emma Tiedemann and Rylee Pay. If you've seen clips of Portland's Big Three this year, now Worcester's Big Three, of Marcelo Meyer, Roman Anthony, and Kyle Teal, those clips have probably been narrated by Emma and Rylee, who are the broadcast voices of the Portland Sea Dogs. Emma has been broadcasting baseball for more than a decade, and she's been with the Sea Dogs since 20 games, since they didn't have any in 2020, since 2021. And Rylee is in her second season working alongside Emma in Portland. Together, they are making broadcasting history as the second all-female broadcast booth in baseball history. And they stand on the cusp of their own historic call-up. On August 26th, for the 7 o'clock game against the Blue Jays, they're going to be taking over the NESN booth for several innings of the 7 o'clock game as part of the Red Sox women's celebration game. Fans can also expect notable female voices joining NESN throughout that broadcast, from pregame through postgame and beyond. But for this episode, we wanted to focus on Emma Tiedemann and Rylee Pay, on both their own forthcoming big league opportunities and when they think some of the players that they've been seeing in Portland might be making their own appearances in the big leagues. Thrilled to be joined now on 310 to Left by Emma Tiedemann and Rylee Pay, the play-by-play team in Portland, covering the Sea Dogs. So let's start with this. August 26th. This is a big deal, right? And not just because Danny Jansen might have an opportunity to play in the same game for two different teams in a makeup, but then that's the early game. You two are going to be broadcasting for NESN. How much are you counting down the days to this? How much are you counting down the hours? You know, is there a clock running in your residences that is ticking towards your opportunity for your own call-up?
Yeah, I think we're going to add one to the front office so everyone knows what is about to happen on August 26th. But no, it's so exciting. It's so thrilling to kind of follow up the Danny Jansen historical game and have our own history in that second game of that doubleheader at Fenway Park, no less. It's a date that's been circled on the calendar and one I cannot wait for it to get here.
Yeah, I'd echo the same, just that I think everybody around here has really just proven what an awesome support system they are. Some of our ushers, when I was delivering game notes the other day, he's like, 16 days, are you ready? Are you counting down? And I was like, well, yeah, now hearing you say 16 days, it puts it into full perspective. So we've had so many awesome people here around Portland, and just people at our season ticket holder brunch the other day too. We're going to have watch parties and get together, and just we're so excited for you guys. So it's been awesome just to feel the support of everybody here in Portland, Maine. It's really, really special.
Yeah, what a cool thing. Like, how much have you felt, you know, in your position as broadcasters, how much do you learn about how, like, the rooting interest that people are taking, not just in the Portland Sea Dogs players, but in your own careers and successes in lives?
Yeah, I think that I knew we had a ton of support, like Rylee said, like with the ushers and stuff, knowing the countdown and season ticket holders having watch parties and stuff. But, you know, it wasn't that apparent until this last couple of days, wrapping up our 2-week homestand in Portland. You know, I know that everyone had been really supportive with me on maternity leave and me coming back, but it's on a whole other level now with Rylee and I getting to call a Red Sox game because they know how long we've been doing this, how hard we've worked for it. And we're just like the players. We want to one day be major league broadcasters. So to have that little taste of the big leagues, I think they understand the importance of it to us, and are equally excited to kind of, you know, root us on and see how we perform at the big league level, just like the players.
Well, let's jump in there, right? Like you mentioned how long you've been working at this. I'm interested in both of your paths to this place. Why baseball? Why baseball broadcasting? And you know, and kind of how would you when you outline the bio? What does that look like for? And I guess let's start with let's start with Rylee. And you know, you're not that far out from school, and yet here you are you're on the fast track. How did you get here?
Yeah, Emma joked about that too. She's like, "You're on the fast track to the bigs right now." It's pretty surreal to even think about. Just the perspective and my journey in New England baseball too, I think has been one of the most neat parts about it all. So just graduated from UNLV last spring in May and took this job prior to that. But my internship experience started early on in college. I interned with the Northwoods League, which is the summer collegiate baseball league, and started there just as an MC and marketing intern, and had this desire to learn more about broadcasting specifically. So asked to join our broadcasters on the road and take one of the trips with them. They showed me around and let me sit in the booth with them and kind of taught me from that perspective. And then from there, reached out to my internship coordinators at UNLV and said I would really love to learn more about this. So they kind of threw me right in there, broadcasting for our student radio station, and then also reached out to our SID and just our communications department at UNLV and asked to be involved in that way. So got to work with our baseball SID quite a bit, and she just let me kind of put my hand in anything in the baseball team and just everything on that back end. So I got to do PA announcing, I got to do some social media, student broadcasting, and anything just to get my hand in the baseball scene. That was always the constant for me. And then going into my senior year, interned with the Cape Cod Baseball League, which is such a prestigious league on its own, one that a lot of players obviously want to go and play in, and it's the same for broadcasting. So originally applied there and interviewed to be a team reporter and a sideline reporter, but with some extra pieces and some extra interns towards the end. They looked at me preseason and asked if I would be willing to do the play-by-play and try that out and be a third voice in the booth. And it wasn't anything that was originally on my radar, and quite frankly kind of terrified me at first too. But I had some really fantastic broadcast partners that turned to me and said, "We really trust your baseball eyes and the way that you're able to view the game, and we think that you should too, so we'd love if you did that." So just kind of took off from there and continued just broadcasting and honing in on play-by-play specifically on top of already the team reporting and color commentary. And then from there just knew that I really love the challenge more than anything. I think play-by-play just presents such a unique challenge of being able to get better every single day and seeing that tangibly, not knowing what's going to happen on the field, I think is one of the neatest parts of it. So it all just kind of took off from there, and I owe a lot of it to those internships and the people that believed in me to be in this position. So started to look post-grad, knew that it was coming soon, and saw this job with Emma pop up in Portland, Maine, definitely farther than I'm used to from Las Vegas, but knew that it was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up to be able to work with her nonetheless, and just the talent that she is and just the career that she's had in broadcasting. I knew that I could move and everything else would fall into place. Had to take that opportunity when it arose. So really lucky to be here for my second season and learn from her every single day. It's the best.
Well, so Rylee had an opportunity to jump in kind of unexpectedly into the booth. And I believe that your own maiden also not necessarily anticipated.
Yeah, I grew up playing every sport under the sun, but I actually want to be a veterinarian. And when I was in high school, that kind of shifted when I took biology and realized I wasn't really a science and math-minded person. But I was very fortunate. My grandfather was a broadcaster, and he, at that point, had not quite fully retired, but he was still calling games with his students at the University of North Texas, and had an extra headset one day. And I was there to help him keep score for a women's basketball game. And he was like, "Hey, you've been playing basketball your whole life. Let's see how you can do on play-by-play. And you don't have to talk if you don't want to, but let's just see how you do." And I took the headset and I ran with it. I fell in love that first game calling women's basketball, of always being on your feet, having to analyze on the second, and going with the ebbs and flows of the game. Oh my gosh, I just loved it. So I knew that that's what I wanted to do for my career the rest of my life. I wanted to do play-by-play. So I continued broadcasting about 7 sports throughout high school, and then went to the University of Missouri and got more involved with play-by-play, called football, called Missouri football, called the Cotton Bowl for the student radio station. Had a lot of fun with that. And then I wanted to kind of transition and work better at baseball. That was my weakest sport, play-by-play wise. So that took me to Palmer, Alaska, for the Alaska Baseball League. and of all places. And that's where I fell in love with working in baseball, and the day in, day out grind, the bus trips, the longer season. I just knew that was it. I was hooked on baseball. So after Alaska, I spent 2 seasons in Medford, Oregon. Then I went to the St. Paul Saints when they were still an independent baseball team. Then broke into minor league baseball with the Lexington Legends, the Kansas City Royals affiliate for 2 seasons, and then got the job in Portland, Maine in 2020, and have been with the Sea Dogs ever since.
That is a lot of moving. That's a lot of jobs. That's seeing a lot of the country. And I'm willing to bet that that's also a lot of interviews, right? Like, these are coveted jobs. These opportunities to work in minor league baseball are widely sought, precisely because of opportunities like the ones that you guys are that you both have earned, but about to enjoy and celebrate at Fenway Park, where you are connected to an organization where there's opportunities for maybe advancement throughout. Emma, I am really curious to hear what your perspective is on how the landscape has shifted over the course of the time in which you've been interviewing for jobs, how the industry has changed. I mean, we've seen some amazing things, right? You guys are the second all-female broadcast team in baseball history, which is incredible. The first, was another celebration. It was also within the Red Sox organization when Melanie Newman and Susie Kuhl were together with the Salem Red Sox. And that was truly a landmark when that occurred just really a handful of seasons ago during your own broadcast career. How has the landscape changed over the last, decade plus, for a woman who is looking to advance in, as a baseball broadcaster?
I think the landscape has changed, but at the same time, it really kind of hasn't. You look at the amount of female broadcasters in minor league baseball, and there's still less than 5 of us. I think we peaked at like 6 in 2019 with Melanie and Susie. But yeah, I think that the changes, though, have been with the hiring process. You mentioned all the interviews, and I mean, we don't really have the traditional winter meetings job fair anymore. But I mean, that was an absolute sprint of a 4-day extravaganza of interviewing for as many teams as you could in such a short amount of time. And there were hundreds of people going for every single broadcast job. It was just so competitive. And during my time in those situations, you kind of flock together with fellow broadcasters. Although it's a hyper competitive industry, you really kind of have your small group of close friends that you're all weirdly going for the same jobs. But I would have experiences with interviews. Somebody told me that their owners found out that they were interviewing a female broadcaster and said that they didn't want a female voice on the booth, so he couldn't continue interviewing me, but he could critique my tape. Which it was an odd way to transition into being critiqued after having your dreams kind of cut at the knees. But now I think you see more female general managers across the landscape. You see more people in those positions of hiring that are more open-minded and thinking, oh, no, if it doesn't matter if it's a female voice or a male voice, as long as they're the best person for the job, they fit the front office, this shouldn't be an issue any longer. And I think that that's key when we're talking about long-term success of having more women in these positions. And then of course, hiring people like Rylee to show there can be actually 2 women on the broadcast. It can still be a fantastic listen. And now Rylee is in a position to go and lead her own broadcast one day. I think it's just helping people, set everybody up for success, for those long-term goals and positions.
Rylee is someone who was trying to get her first full-time job about 10 years after Emma got hers. Were you concerned about entry barriers, about the possibility that the number of avenues might be fewer for you than they would be for a male counterpart? And along those lines, how extraordinary was it to have the opportunity to introduce to interview with someone like Emma? How encouraging, inspiring, to have, I'm sure that you were already familiar with Emma, even before you interviewed with her. How much did that mean that when you were interviewing with the Sea Dogs, you were going to be doing so with someone who stood as kind of living evidence of the opportunity, of the ability to advance in the field?
Yeah, I think that was a huge part of what really drew me to this job, was just the ability to see somebody who has already lived a lot of what I want to live and experience those things, and kind of blaze that path and created her own in that way. So I think that was something that always stuck out to me, is to be able to learn from somebody who knows exactly how you're going to feel, exactly how you're trying to navigate everything, and then also to learn from somebody who sounds like you in some ways too. That's something that you don't see all the time, like you mentioned. So in that regard, I think it was super neat to just have that piece to look at and know that she's doing it. So it is totally doable and there are opportunities there. I've also been super fortunate to be working with a lot of different men in the field who never made me feel like I was an outlier in that regard, and just always kind of believed in me in that way, and kind of urged me to trust my baseball eyes and to just run with it, and knowing that there were opportunities there. Like Emma said, if you're able to just be the best broadcaster and also just hone in on your craft and improve every single day, I think that's unanimous for any broadcast job, is just to always have that urge to get better and to improve, and then those opportunities will follow when you kind of put in that work. So for me, I was super lucky to have some other women not too long ago kind of blaze those paths as well. Melanie Newman, as you mentioned already, with Salem, and then also her Orioles job. I grew up watching the Orioles with my dad from the DC area, so grew up watching that team already, and remember turning on the TV one day during one of my internships in the Northwoods League and seeing a female voice. So it didn't ever seem completely abnormal for me, having those opportunities to see that visual and know that women were out there already doing those things.
You are also getting a chance to see your broadcast partner Emma being a mother on the job. What's it been like to watch Emma balancing the responsibilities of work and motherhood, and how cool is it? To see? I feel like everyone is excited to see Lucy anytime. Speaking of rock stars making their appearance in Headlock Field, I realize that there's a lot of attention on the big three, but I think that sometimes they're in the shadow of another. Rylee, what is it like to see Emma doing all of this, and to see an example of someone who is able to excel professionally and also be embrace being a mother?
Oh, there are so many things that I admire about her to begin with, but now seeing her this season, be able to come back from maternity leave in July and just pick up exactly where she left off, I think was the coolest thing ever. I always say, if anybody can live the minor league life with a baby, it's Emma Tiedemann, and she's done just that. Just the way that she's been able to navigate everything. She came back and it was like she didn't even miss a game. She was headset on and ready to go, and it was the exact same Emma that was there before maternity leave. But just seeing her as a mom too, I think is so neat. She's one of the coolest moms that I know. Just everything, the perspective that she's able to just kind of have her baby sitting there too, I think is so cool to see her on the road trips and see those pictures and see Lucy sitting there with her Emma and her headset, I think is just the coolest thing. And to just see her take that all with stride. It's been one of the most seamless transitions from the outside looking in, from my perspective, and I just admire her so much to be able to navigate all of that and do it with such ease. I think it's the coolest thing. She's the best.
From the inside looking out, Emma, are you doing this with ease? How's the transition going?
Yeah, it's like a duck, sitting on water where it's all smooth, and then underwater it's, freaking out with his legs moving a mile a minute. It's funny. I was talking to somebody about it yesterday, and I thought that working, especially in broadcasting and baseball, would have prepared me for, working in a season just, with a baby, with the lack of sleep and everything. But truly nothing prepares you for, say we had a doubleheader and ended up playing 18 innings on Tuesday night. We played 11 innings yesterday. So, getting home and back to the hotel late, and then waking up about an hour later to feed your baby, and then waking up a couple hours later to soothe her again as she's going through a little growth spurt, and maybe getting about 3 hours of sleep every night is tough. But, I think that, working in this industry for this long has prepared me that, you just get up in the morning, you've got your work to do, you take care of your kid now, and the night ends at the ballpark. I think it's really cool and special to have such a fantastic front office that allows Lucy to hang out whenever. A couple weeks ago, she had to come with me to a couple morning meetings, and I put her up on the table, and she sat on the table while we were all talking about the upcoming promotions for that night, how many groups were coming in the ballpark, all those little details. And I think it goes a long way it shows, how great the Sea Dogs are with truly being that, family first organization. A lot of organizations can say, oh yeah, we're a family first, but not really walk the talk. But the Sea Dogs absolutely do. And no one bats an eye whenever Lucy comes around. And I think that most people now ask about Lucy to me instead of how the Sea Dogs are doing or, how I'm doing. It's a weird transition, but Lucy is a rock star. She deserves it. She's precious. And she knows to be quiet in the press box, which is ideal.
My children have yet to learn that lesson, which is why they don't get to be in as much as Lucy. My understanding is also that as much as we have observed, and through your voices, I should add, the exploits of the big three, that they're also qualified babysitters.
Yes, I think it was my first day back. Rylee and I were in the clubhouse, and Marcelo Meyer and Roman Anthony were back there. And, they've all the players have seen Lucy on my social media. And so they were all like, oh my gosh, welcome back. And Marcelo and Roman said, we could babysit her in the dugout. Like if she needs to come to a game, like we could watch her. And Rylee and I look at each other, we're like, yeah, no, you're kids yourself. You're barely 21, Marcel. You're barely 20 years old, Roman. Like, no, but it's nice to have a backup. You can never have too many babysitters. So they're technically on the list. I won't say exactly where on the list of babysitters they are, but it was nice of them to volunteer.
Well, I guess we'll use that as the effortless segue to note that they're high up on some different lists, some prospect ones. How would both of you describe what you've seen in terms of, let's call it the big four, right? Like, because as much as we talk about, as Marcelo Meyer, who you guys have seen him since he was called up to Portland at the end of last May, Roman Anthony and Kyle Teal followed last September, and now Christian Campbell arrived this year, but decided that he was going to basically outperform all of them in Portland in the first 150, 200 plate appearances or so. I would love to get your perspectives on just the day-to-day of what you feel like you're seeing from prospects who are all young, either in actual years or in their professional baseball experiences. Rylee, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, you really wouldn't know. I always say, too, especially Roman Anthony, when just turning 20 years old this season, you would never know that they're such young prospects just by the way that they carry themselves and the professional manner that they go about their business. They really are acting as big leaguers, and the way that they carry themselves, I think, speaks volumes to the type of players and people that they are more than anything. They're some of the most fantastic guys to work with, especially given all the media attention that they've received for good reason at the beginning of this year, and just the way that they've navigated all of that. They're really bought into it, and the way that they respond to those situations, I think, is really impressive. Marcelo Meyer talking about how he really thrives on that pressure, and it's something that he's been used to for some time now, so it's really something that he doesn't let get to him, and I think you see that with all three of those guys. And also, like you said, Christian Campbell, who is just one of the most humble guys that you will ever meet, just soft-spoken and goes about his business in such an awesome way. Just a very polished player and somebody who just hit the ground running since coming to Portland. He's batting just under 400, and that's been consistent since his call-up. He's already earned Eastern League Player of the Month honors. He's earned Eastern League Player of the Week honors twice, and just a guy who is just fully exceeded every expectation, really made a name for himself throughout the minor leagues this season. He's one that has been so versatile for us as well. He'll hit at any spot in the lineup and play anywhere defensively, and it's something that he's really bought into in that regard. He said that there's just so many things that he's been working on this season, and you're seeing that translate on the field, the amount of power that he has, and just the versatility defensively, center field, middle infield, really anywhere that they need him for the day. He fully excels at, and I think that's just one of the coolest things to see, and to see that talent that we've had every single day is just something that you don't see all the time in the minor leagues in general. So to have all of that talent at one spot has been really cool to watch, and you're seeing that in just the way that the Sea Dogs have done this season.
Emma, who do you think is going to be first to the big leagues? Who do you think is going to have the best career out of the four?
Oh my gosh. First, first for me is a toss up between Teal and Anthony. I think longevity wise, I think that Roman Anthony has set himself up. I mean, he just, the way that, like Riley was saying, like, you know, the way he handles himself, and the way he takes care of himself, but also the way he handles himself in the batter's box and in the field. I mean, he just screams big leaguer to me. You know, I think it was really fun the last couple of weeks he was with Portland to watch him, you know, take longer at bats, be patient earlier in the count and really let the at bat draw out. And then the last 2 weeks in Portland, when he just went on an absolute tear, he was swinging at first pitches and hitting home runs. He was saying, oh, okay, enough with this. I'm ready for triple. So I think it's a toss up between I think it's Teal or Anthony first, Anthony with the longest career. But I mean, Marcelo Meyer, I mean, you watch him play shortstop. He's meant for the infield, has a great bat, doubles king, you know, over in the Eastern League right now. So this is a very difficult question. I mean, they're all 1A, 1B, 1C, really.
Yeah, the fact that they're moving up together is unique, right? Like I've seen great prospects, a trio of great prospects assigned to the same level before as they were for the beginning of this year in Portland. I have never seen three top prospects like this moving up in lockstep between levels. That is different. So Rylee, I guess from your vantage point, like how much do they push each other as a group in their development? The fact that they are like they haven't shied from this whole big three thing, right? Like they genuinely like each other. They spend a ton of time together in the cage, off the field, in Chad Epperson's office. They like the three of them would hang out and be like the last guys in the clubhouse. How much do you think that their development is furthered by the fact that they are a big three instead of being, you know, kind of prospects who maybe are more inwardly focused?
Yeah, I think that you see it there, just iron sharpens iron, and that's like a full display of those three and just the way that they've carried themselves since they've been here. I talked to Kyle Teal earlier on in the season just about what it was like playing alongside those three, because this was the first season that they did, of course, with Meyer injured last season to end the year when Roman and Kyle were promoted. So he said just having those two hit before him in the lineup, it would typically go that way, Roman, Marcelo, and then Kyle. He said it's nice because they're lefties. He got to see that from them, but more than anything, he just learned so much watching those guys play and the expertise that they have in the game already. So I think they really just feed off of the energy of each other, and just the way that they are able to carry themselves at the field and the positivity that they have. They all have that same goal and want to get there equally at the same time, I think, and it's so cool for them to move up together. And you heard that from Kyle after being promoted to AAA, that it's so neat that they get to do that together. Like you said, it's something that you don't see all the time. So just the ability to feed off of each other, to learn things from each other, and then also just from the experience that all three of those have. Roman and Marcelo, obviously high school guys, but then Kyle, his collegiate experience as well, getting to pick his brain and just all of them working together, I think is one of the coolest things. And hopefully that will continue and you'll see them move up to the big leagues together one day too.
Emma, what's the most impressive single thing you've seen from pick any one of them? Let's do this exercise for all four of the players. Most impressive thing that you guys have seen on the field from each of them. So let's start with Roman.
Oh man, on the field. I mean, it has to be the home run, 160 mile an hour off the bat. That was one of the few times ever that I've had to think, oh no, Emma, you're on the air. You're not just a baseball fan. You know, like because what I actually wanted to say was not going to be broadcast friendly based on that home run. Hands down, that was the most impressive. I won't forget that home run in a very long time.
Rylee, most impressive thing you've seen on the field from Teal?
I mean, everything, it's day to day, just his ability behind the plate defensively, and then just the power that he's shown too. He has got power to all fields. So I remember just early on too, he'd hit a lot of his home runs to the opposite field. So seeing that on full display was pretty neat. But for him, he's just full of electricity. So seeing him behind the plate and seeing him interact with the pitchers every day, I think is one of the most exciting things, seeing him in that regard, and just seeing him at catcher, I think every day is something fun with Kyle Teal for sure.
Yeah, I cannot believe that like he does the whole DJ bass monkey thing, like, and tries to be like this electric force, like electricity. I think is a great term for it. Among his teammates, like most catchers are pretty tired after squatting back there. I guess maybe the knee down is what's keeping him preserved well enough to be the Energizer Bunny afterwards. Emma, what's the most impressive thing you have seen from Marcelo?
I'm going to go back to last season. I think it was his bounce back game in Somerset, New Jersey, after he had just been called up to Double-A, and he really struggled those first couple of games. And I think he went hitless his first 2 or 3, and then had, I believe it was a 3-hit game that Sunday on the getaway day. And just to see how all the outside noise clearly did not affect him. And he recorded his hits, you could tell a switch flipped for him. And then the way that he handled himself after the game, we were hounded at the bus with autographs. He needed to talk to MLB with some interviews, and he was all business. Very easy to deal with. You would never think that he struggled early on those first games, the way that he exploded that Sunday game, and still handled himself with professionalism and everything. That was really the first good chunk of time that I had spent with Marcelo, and I think that really sticks with me considering his age at the time as well.
And Rylee, let's round it out. Christian Campbell, most impressive thing you've seen from him on the field?
It's been recent too, but the power that he's had as of late, he had 3 home runs in 3 days, and I remember being on the call in those innings, and I just said he's had 2 home runs in the last 2 days, and then next pitch, there's number 3. And it was just perfect timing, the way that baseball works out somehow in that way too. And also, Emma and I were talking about his power early on in one of those games as well, and right after that next pitch, he drives it over the main monster. So maybe he hears that sixth sense of us talking about his power, and he always delivers the visual in those scenarios. I think that's pretty neat. But just the way that he's been able to produce in bunches, his multi-homer game early on in the season against Reading too, just a ton of power and a ton of fun to watch.
So I guess let's, kind of towards wrapping up with this, the 3 of them, not Campbell, but Marcelo, Roman, and Teal, all moving up to Worcester together. Like they were kind of emotional about that. Teal especially, it was really cool. He just recognized that this is something special, which is so strange that he recognizes this since he's only been in pro ball for a year. But whatever. The 2 of you are getting your own opportunity, your own call up together as well. How special is it that this invitation, this opportunity is coming to broadcast a Red Sox game on Nesson together? That it's going to be the 2 of you, both in terms of what it's going to, it represents something very special individually. It represents something very special for your friendship. It represents something very special that it is the 2 of you, 2 women who have worked very hard in this game to appreciate to accomplish what you have. How exciting is it to share a call up?
Oh, it's going to be great. We are the big 2, I guess you could say. But it's awesome. And I think having 2 seasons with Rylee in the booth, I think we have great chemistry on air together. Hopefully that translates onto Nesson as well. We just have a lot of fun calling baseball. That's really it at the end of the day. I think bounce conversations off of each other really well in the booth, not to mention outside the booth as well. It's just kind of, always running around, it seems like, with our heads cut off until we put the headset on. We're like, oh, okay, we can call baseball now. We're good. So I think it'll be really nice to have somebody that I'm so comfortable with right off the hop. Nothing against Dave O'Brien or Kevin Youkilis, but I've called a lot of games with Rylee Pay, and having her next to me as usual, it'll feel like a more normal game until I look out at Fenway and know this is very abnormal.
I'd agree with the same. I'm trying to just think of it too, like another Sea Dogs game. We keep joking it's Sea Dogs and Fisher Cats with Toronto. So when you think of that in that perspective, it just it makes it all just that more enjoyable. And to have her alongside, like she said, we call so many games together, and the amount of fun that we have on a broadcast, I think is something that has been really fun and just neat to experience with her. So there's nobody else that I would want to experience it with. I owe so much to her, and just the way that she's helped shape my career early on, coming out of college and learning the ropes of the minor leagues. I couldn't imagine anybody else that I'd want to call a major league game with. So it's just that extra element that makes this all the more special and full circle. So very excited to have her alongside in a moment like that, and to look down and see Fenway.
Well, I think that a lot of us, including myself, are super excited to watch the two of you together in the booth on August 26th, to be able to enjoy the knowledge and the experience that you're going to be able to bring to the broadcast, and also the special dynamic that you share. So both Emma Tiedemann and Rylee Pay, thank you so much for joining 310 to Left. We will be watching.
Thank
you.